You don't ever hear about that guy getting like fucking butt fucked in prison. It sucks.
Well, you know it's got to be happening. Yeah.
But like Jerry from Subway,
cigarettes.
like is that guy getting fucking smashed out?
Oh no, he's
hope
getting
so.
destroyed.
Yeah, that guy is like the poster.
He's the pedo poster.
He's in PC for
He's
sure.
getting wrecked.
What's up, everybody? My name is Parker Excellence.
My name's Danny Ferrari.
And we are Excellent Sound. Today, we have a very special guest, one of our really good friends,
That's right.
Dylan Le Castlevania, the return of...
It's good to be back on the greatest electronic music podcast on the planet Earth.
Hell yeah,
Possibly the best podcast on planet
Well,
Earth.
yeah.
We're getting there.
I can't think of anybody better or bigger than us in the world.
Well, you
Exactly.
did
There's not
land
one
me
that-
on the podcast.
That's right.
so.
Yeah.
Second time coming back, bro.
Yes, you are the second guest to have a return episode.
Yes.
Dreams do come true.
Yes.
right.
Twice.
Yes.
Twice.
And it's also a very special time for you right now, dude. You just came out with a brand new movie,
Yeah.
Ballerina.
That's right.
Yep. From the world of John Wick,
The world of
Ballerina,
John Wick.
in
Yeah.
theaters currently.
Go check it out.
Yeah, dude. I just had to talk about this whole thing. I thought the movie was gonna be a flop. Like you invited
Whoa.
me, I was like, Dylan, I'm
Wow.
gonna come. Like,
Okay.
I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna support my homie. You know. But I was like, how is this gonna be good? Like as good as John Wick? Like John Wick is one of my favorite action movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Especially
all right.
John Wick 4, right?
Probably the one that you haven't seen. I saw it.
I have not seen John Wick 4. I've only seen all the way up to 3.
I didn't
all
see
the way up to
Ballerina
3.
yet, but I watched a couple clips, so-
Legitimately, I'm not just saying this. John Wick 4 is my favorite one. Like,
Really?
It's
I mean,
really good.
the first one is like the classic, so
Yeah.
obviously that's kind of like on its. But of the sequels, for sure, John Wick 4 is the best one.
Can I jump in just real quick as you're talking about
Wait,
this?
wait, I just want to. I want to finish my thought on this,
Sorry,
which
sorry.
was no,
Had to
which
bust
was
the balls a little bit.
I was so surprised. We were at the theater and I watched it, and I haven't seen a movie in the theater in a long time. First off, too, so it might have been that. But dude, it was such a good movie. It was insane, dude. And your parts with all of with your songs and the fight scenes was incredible. It was awesome. But just in general, it was a really great movie. And it was what do you call it? It surpassed my expectations. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And thanks
Yeah.
for coming to the screening with.
Yeah.
I got a group of friends together, and yeah.
It was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that one of the things that I appreciate about the John Wick universe is you can't really do this with the Avengers, but and I think this is probably hard to do with any other film too. Is you could jump into really any John Wick film and not have seen other ones and kind of get caught up to speed really quick. You know what I'm saying? And understand. And I think that's why it works so well too. Just from the movie sense is it's pretty simple. It's usually some type of story about, whether it's be revenge or something. And John Wick's character or the world of John Wick with everybody else, it's just really easy to follow along. And I always appreciate that because that's the movie is not in my mind, the John Wick series is you're not going. It's not like you're going to go watch a Leonardo DiCaprio crazy sort of thought. You're you're
Right,
going to
a super heady kind of movie.
You're going to be entertained, and you can go to any single one of John Wick ones in the universe with Ballerina, and you could just watch it, be entertained, and just have a good time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
of
they're
course-
all, I'll be the first to admit, it's not the deepest story plot line. They're mainly vehicles for the stunts and action.
That's
but
what's
there
fun.
is a cool world building. There's
Yeah.
maybe some of the lore and stuff makes more sense if you've seen more of them, or there's
100%.
little details that you can get more into, but you could totally just show up and watch it and just go for the ride, which is what it is. And that's why I think they do well in the theaters, and they're good movies for experiencing on the big screen, is because it's like a spectacle. It's like you're going to an event almost. You know?
Right. And then for Avengers is kind of a similar thing, but I kind of felt I had tried to like watch the whole Avengers series because I wasn't too privy on seeing a couple, and like people are like,
That's
okay,
such
well
a
you
commitment.
only need to watch like these ones, and like I tried to do that. I don't remember any of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even remember any of the action sequences, but I remember a lot of John Wick. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a big. There's a lot of Avengers fans out there, but I'm not the biggest Avengers fan.
Yeah.
But I was just comparing that, like, because it is like kind of an entertaining sort of thing when you go to an Avengers movies. And it's cool to see that there is this other universe that's actually an original idea. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, true.
That's been created, and now it's building outside of just like recycling the same superheroes, or like, oh, we haven't used this comic book hero yet, and how can we get them all together to create this super, massive. And I know people love those, but for me, I think that's really cool. And for those of you that don't know, obviously the whole reason why Dylan is here is not only is he an amazing composer that has composed and worked on the John Wick films and other projects, video games too. We can talk about that too. I'd like to talk about where you're at with some of the video game projects you're working on, but also too, you're just like a fucking OG in the EDM world. You've been producing for a very long time. You've been DJing, and you got tons of hits underneath your belt even before all this. So like, people got to know, if you don't already know, well, Castlevania is an OG, bro. So I'm super. I had to add on to that intro because we just kind of went right into John Wick, and I'm just like, no, like we gotta prop our boy up. Yeah. So like one of the cool things that I think like after, because last time you were here we were kind of talking about John Wick and production and a bunch of stuff, but one of the cool things that I've like kind of like found a new respect for, after we had that podcast, I went home and I had watched the John Wick at home. John Wick 4, and
at least I have one for near.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen Ballerina yet, but I feel like it's just came out.
Okay, you're both dead to me.
Yeah. So
in different ways.
I never thought about how difficult it is. Like, imagine for producers out there. So imagine you're producing a song, right? And then it's at a certain tempo, but not like where you would like, let's say you have an effects transition from one part to the other. You have to essentially, like, in my mind, the way you explained it to me is like you're constantly working off the grid and off the timeline.
Wait, you gotta ask him how it works.
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
So, like, for me, when you explained that to me, I was like, oh, and then I listened and I watched and I was like, holy shit, like the amount of effort it takes to make something line up musically that's not going to always just end up falling on the grid, or where us as humans are used to hearing things and making it sound seamlessly is incredibly hard to do. So I wanted to ask you, here it comes. What are some tricks and some ways that you do when you're trying to line up a musical piece to film that's not necessarily landing exactly where you need it to be, as far as like what traditional music theory sort of allows?
Right.
What do you do in that scenario?
It's very tricky, and that's like probably the hardest part about what I do. So like when you're scoring to picture, there's like a more traditional film sound that's kind of a lot of times orchestral, or to me, that stuff, it's easier to get away with doing, like dropping out a beat or having like a weird time signature so that it lands where you want it to, or you're doing tempo ramping and changing tempos. Because of the nature of that sound of that music, you can get away with those things a lot easier. I think a lot of people kind of like have this thought in their head that, like, that kind of scoring and composing is like more difficult than just like making electronic music. I think that's true in some ways and false in other ways, or both styles have their own challenges, but like these scenes that I've done in the John Wick movies are like very tricky, because like if you just randomly throw in an extra beat on a very rhythm forward track like club music, it's going to feel really weird and awkward, like, because the music is heavily featured in all of the scenes that I've done. And so like it gets very tricky with like making it still feel like a club track, but I'm timing out everything to specific hits, specific camera movements, like, and I think also like when you're watching the movie, I don't want it to be super apparent that I'm doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
It just has to like, it's helping without the audience even knowing that it's helping. It's just like, they just feel it. And I think that's a big part of like why the scenes that I've done in those movies have become kind of a big part of that franchise and like fan favorites and all of that. But there's a lot of different tricks you have to do. A lot of times I'll have like the beat drop out for like the rhythm or drum part drop out when a certain sound effect happens, and it fills that space. And that allows you to do like a tricky transition because it's stealing the listener's attention.
Right.
In Ballerina, I feel like with each movie, both me and the director and our team have like learned more with each one. And so this one for sure is the most complicated, like in-depth version of the Wick club scene that I've done, where I was telling Parker about this like just in a conversation, but I really believe this is the first time that what I did with the music has ever been done in film ever, because it's one continuous mix across key changes and tempos like a DJ would do. So it's like mixed in key from track to track. I planned all this out over months of like re-editing, like the picture going through changes and like this vision I had in my head. And it took a long time to pull off. Part of that was just like making it all work musically and figuring out what I wanted to do with the music. But I wrote the music for this scene like a DJ set would be. So it starts off at like 110, and that's kind of like the intro, like sexy Eve's walking into the club vibe. And then there's like tension building. And also throughout this DJ mix, I'm weaving in moments of like traditional score that's kind of like hinting at, oh, okay, these are the bad guys. They're coming into the club. And there's like a musical element that's more like a traditional score with like a low string, you know. So it's like that's being weaved in and out while also this like DJ mix that's like transitioning from one song up to the next tempo. So it goes like 110 up to 115. And then by the time you get to the climax, it's gotten into like the 120s. And these are also in, like I said, in different keys and like mixed in key. So it's like a score that's also a DJ mix, but also everything is timed out to like,
so cool.
But I didn't mix it like you normally would, like as a DJ. I did it in the DAW and like planned it out to have that feel and effect. And so yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we achieved on this one. I feel like it's the most like in-depth one that I've done. And
yeah, that's
I don't know if anybody that watches it would. I mean, probably like you probably picked up on it, but just a typical person watching may not even know that all that's happening. But I do have to believe that like people feel
They
it
for
and
sure
experience it.
They
You know?
for sure do. You know, I noticed a lot of the transitions when you would slow it down. It's like a big tempo change. I was like, oh, okay. Like now the fight scene's done. Like we're about to start talking, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of like helps the viewer, I think. But
Definitely.
it's always so amazing when somebody is composing to video, because like music videos are the complete opposite. Like you have a bass to edit the movie to, and everything you can make the hits on time, you could do all of that, but like the total opposite, the editor needs to be like a little bit
Well, I do have to
musical.
give a shout out to Nicholas, who was the editor on this film.
Let's go, Nick.
So
Nice.
awesome to work with. He was great throughout this movie. And the first day I sat down with the director and we were watching like early cuts of this film, I got Nicholas's number because I was like, I'm going to like holler at him about it, just
that's the guy you need to talk to.
Yeah.
He's helping with the timing and the cuts.
And some editors are down to like work with you, and sometimes they just send you the picture and you just have to make it work.
That's it.
Yeah.
But he was really cool and was down to work with me. So if there was like parts that just like it was feeling off, or like because like I said, the music is very forward. So sometimes you're doing some of those tricks. It just throws off the groove of what you have going on. But he was really cool about working with me and like, where I needed to make, where something just wasn't quite landing how I wanted to.
Yeah.
He would just like make adjustments on his end, and we would kind of like send it back and forth that way. And
so he'd give you a couple extra frames or cut some off here and
exactly.
there. Exactly. That's so sick. What a fucking G.
Yeah.
That's
well,
so nice of him.
I hadn't had that on any of the previous films, but luckily he was really open to working with me on that. And he was just an awesome force on this whole movie. Like, for sure, he was like one of the most helpful people that got us to the finish line.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
The scene that you're talking about, because you brought, for you guys don't know, he brought something for us to react to. I think we might do it in this video or probably another video. But
I gotta give a shout out to Ben Zales as well. He was the music editor in the film. He helped us like get everything lined up and put together as well. He was very helpful.
Big shout out.
Shout out Ben Zales.
Both of those dudes.
So is that what you brought for us to react to? Is that specific scene?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm excited for that.
I'm so stoked.
So like another thing that I was thinking is like, I was going to ask you as far as like, as like the editors go, is like you're in my mind, you're like, let's say you're watching, what was the director's name? Is it his name also Nick too? Right. Or
the director. Okay. So, Lynn Wiseman directed this movie, but they brought in Chad, who's directed all of the John Wick films. So they brought him in to do some reshoots and additional stuff. And so he's the guy that called me and Tyler Bates and Joel Richard to do the music for it. So I guess they had some composers on this project already, but...
Well, you got the vibe of the John Wick is also part of about the music too. It's not just.
Yeah, I think like it's
a big part of it.
So this movie was originally started while we were working on John Wick 4.
Right.
So that's why there's a different director and they had a different music team because we were fully engaged on John Wick 4. And then this movie was like, since it had a different director, I think like it needed Chad's input to bring it more into the world. And so it was shelved for a little while. I think this movie is actually supposed to come out before John Wick 4 because if you watch it in order, it kind of takes place during the events of John Wick 3.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
But yeah, for whatever reason, they decided this is the first spinoff in the world of John Wick. So like we have to really nail this and make sure it's right. And so they had Chad come in just to help give some input on it. And, he made the call to call up Tyler and me and Joel and have us do the music.
I see.
And, so most of my creative, direction came from Chad on this movie.
Okay.
But Lynn Wiseman was the actual director of the film and was obviously very creatively involved as well.
Hey everyone, we are super excited to let you guys know that we finally have launched our YouTube membership page. You guys can now join the Excellent Sound YouTube page as a member and get tons of awesome perks, like exclusive content for your eyes only, as well as access into our guest project files, extra sounds, extra footage, and get your questions answered directly from the pros. You'll also get some extra perks like badges, emotes, and priority comments and chat. But that's not it, and we've saved the best for last. We are gonna match your membership price with a monthly coupon to the Excellent Sound store, which makes your membership essentially free. You can use this coupon for serum presets, samples, project files, and even lessons. Becoming a YouTube member really helps out our channel and allows us to bring in more awesome content from our guests and from us. We have a few different price point tiers and each one is better than the next. So click the link in the description and join our membership now, and let's build this community to be something bigger than we've ever dreamed of. Maybe getting Skrillex. We'll try to get Skrillex. We get bigger. I feel like he might come on. That might help. Let's try to get Skrillex.
So when it gets to you, because this is the thought I had, right? So like you're explaining, you'll get the piece of film, and let's say your song's in 110 BPM. You might have to imagine having to cut your song not a bar short, but at a 3/4 and 7/8 of a bar short or whatever, and so it feels weird. So you're saying using stuff like dropouts is a good way to sort of work around that. But I was going to ask you is what happens if you're editing and you do this whole entire long piece, right? Because the idea is they're giving you the final cut of the film. But
No.
I can imagine that it's going to come back and they're going to be like, no, actually, we want to cut out another 10
Yeah, it
seconds and
happens
you're
all
fucked.
the time.
So what do you, has that
and
happened?
every one of these films, it happens all the time.
Oh my God, that's got to be a nightmare to deal
It's
with.
an absolute nightmare because you spend so much time getting all these things dialed in. It's very tricky. And you get it perfect, and then you get that call, and they're like, "Oh, we like changed it." And even if it's like I've gotten calls that are like, "Oh, it's literally 1 second difference. We just shortened up this frame." It's like that 1 second literally throws off everything.
my
It doesn't
God.
matter if you like how much you cut, like even if it's the tiniest amount, it throws off everything. But it's just part of the gig and part of the process. And like sometimes it's necessary because if it really does make the flow better, then you
Sure,
just got to figure it out. That's just part of the job and why these films are so stressful. This movie in particular, they, like I said, is the first spinoff, and like they have Lionsgate definitely wants to like expand this world. They have, if you had seen John Wick 4, you know there's a
Still hasn't seen it.
Still haven't.
we're just keeping the
It's
joke
so
going.
crazy, dude.
There's a character named Kane who's Donnie Yin's character in John Wick 4. He's like a blind assassin.
I know about Kane.
Yeah, he's super sick character. I really like him. But they want to
Great
do
name. Great name.
Sick, yeah.
yeah, they want to do a Kane spinoff. And so I think they had this whole vision of like expanding the world of John Wick. So obviously the first spinoff has to be awesome,
gotta
or
be
people
crazy.
just aren't going to get on board.
And it's doing very well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we achieved what we set out to, and I'm glad they didn't rush it out. That they took the
that's true.
time to like really dial it in. I mean, all of the feedback I've seen on like the comment section on my YouTube and all that, all of the feedback has been really, really positive, and like people feel like the action is on par and the stunts and all that stuff. So there was a point that I was getting to, but I forgot it.
Well, I
now.
was just kind of asking you, like, so I kind of wanted to ask, like, for this specific sequence that you're going to be showing us later on, that's a long sequence, so that would take a lot of planning. And I'm wondering, in my mind, how many times did you have to rework that because they had made changes or cut out time or made it longer or whatever? How many times did that happen with that? And that would have been a nightmare. Just that amount of length.
What I was gonna say is this particular film was like the most recuts and re-edits and different versions because it was so important to them to make sure that they got this spin-off right. So there was just so many iterations and there was even a point where I literally just paused at one point. It's like I got involved on this very, very early on the post-production side, like basically right when Chad came on to do some reshoots and to help add some elements to this film, he was going to film that club scene. And so I think we spoke about this on the last podcast where on John Wick 2, I wrote a piece of music that we filmed to, and then we did that again in 4. And so now that's become part of our process where I'll write an initial piece of music that's like a concept for like his vision, what he describes as scene. So I wrote one of the tracks that's in the club scene in Ballerina ahead of him filming so that he could have that playing on set. And
Oh, cool.
so anyway, I paused at one point just because they kept recutting it so much. It's like, okay, I'm going to like just let you guys figure out like which version of this movie we're doing. But again, I'm glad that they did all that, even though it was a lot of extra work for me. It's just so important that whatever it takes to get to the best version of the film for the fans, like I'm here for it. Like, let's do the work because once it's done, it's out there and it exists forever.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it back and bring up a little techie stuff. So I did have a question about like reverb. So are you the person in the sequence of events, like after you write everything, is that when you kind of pick what parts are going to be like diegetic, like what the characters are going to be hearing, or is that more of like the sound mixer after you just give them the music?
Sorry, what does diegetic mean? Because people don't know what that means. I don't know what that fucking means.
Diegetic is the music that the
is
character
in that
hears.
world, like it's coming out of speakers in that world. Like diegetic means they can hear it.
Like the Penguin, when we did the Penguin, it
Correct.
was like playing in the club. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. I just wanted I didn't know what the fuck that was.
I said it real quick. I said it real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if someone's driving in their car and they're listening to the music and it's happening inside the world of the movie, then that's diegetic. And then stuff that's just like the score or stuff like that that's like just layered in.
For the viewer.
Yeah. So sometimes we have, always in the club scenes that I do, it's kind of a mix of both, and we'll weave in and out of it. So shout out to Mark Stockinger. I got to give everybody their shout
Mark
out.
Stockinger. You're the man.
He's the man. He oversees the final mix, and he's head of the team that does all the sound effects and all that. So basically, like I will compose the music, and I'll have like in mind where I think it'll be switching in and out of being diegetic or not.
Yeah.
But him and his team are the ones that do the final mix, and it's a really cool experience to go down. They have like a big soundstage. It's basically like a movie theater with like a giant mixing board in the middle. Like instead of rows of seats, there's
like 8 people there, right?
Yeah, there's like a whole team, and they do the final mix of everything, of like where the dialogue sits versus sound effects and music, and then they will also do the reverbs and placements of like making it sound like it's in the club versus like really forefront. And like I said, in my scenes, we're usually kind of weaving in and out. There's a training montage that I also did the music for in Ballerina, and that's pretty much all more like score, just forefront music.
That's cool.
But yeah.
Okay, so when you're talking mix too, right? So you create the song and you mix the song as far as like, I think the levels of these instruments should be this loud. I'm compressing, I'm EQ, or you send it out to somebody to be mixed. And then when you give it to these guys, to these team, their whole thing is now mixing your music into the actual film,
so I do the final music mix. A lot of times more like traditional composers, so like a lot of times Tyler Bates and Joel Richard, who also do like the score for the film, they'll hand over like stems so that they have more to work with. Because of the way that my music is mixed with like, I do a lot of like side chaining and bus effects and all that stuff. We found that it works better that I just give them my final master, and then they mix that as far as like its balance with dialogue and sound effects and all of that stuff.
You're probably like the loudest thing that they get, right? Like hitting.
I remember on the
Ford loves. He's like, this is how we do it in EDM.
Yeah.
I remember on my first film, on the first John Wick, like Mark telling me like, this is, I don't think we're gonna beat this low end. Like you've got it dialed in, so like let's just use your master.
Oh man.
So
nah, that must have felt good.
Yeah, I mean he's
that's EDM. That's what we do. We're masters of low end.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude's like an award-winning mix engineer for film, so like that was pretty cool. But yeah, so we just kind of have made that our process. In John Wick 4, though, I did give them a separate stem for like the choir element, so that they could like have that weave in and out of some of the other effects and audio that was going on. So, if there's a specific element that we want to make sure like really stands out, like.
So when they, like in films, they'll give budgets to certain departments, right? So they'll be like, okay, here's the budget for I'm assuming this is how it works, I'm not really sure, special effects, like this is our special effects budget, this is how much we have to spend. Do they do that with you too? Like here's a budget for you to get things you might need to create the movie. I know you already have a lot of your own tools, but like is it ever like, all right, Dylan, here's like 10 grand, like if you need to get some studio equipment to help make the music better, do they ever do stuff like that for you?
Mine have always been like pretty much all in deals. Like you're going to get this much as the you basically get like an initial payment that's like just a payment for doing the composing work, and then of course there's like back end that you'll make royalties. If you have a film like John Wick that like airs all the time, it basically becomes like passive income for the rest of your life. So this is like the 5th John Wick thing I've done. So like all of those are just airing all the time. So like the real money comes from the back end, but usually there's like a nice
but there's not like a specific budget on top of like how they, because I think that's how it works.
It all depends on what you negotiate. A lot of time, like we had a separate orchestra budget on some of these films. Yeah. So like they've set aside money that is specifically for like bringing in orchestra and recording. Like that's pretty common.
You're not in charge of having to pay for that if you want to put the orchestra in your track.
Typically it's all just you just communicate with the person at the studio that's in charge of like settling these deals, and you just have a negotiation or have your agent do a negotiation, and it's all there's not like necessarily a set thing. It just depends on the size of the project and what you're able to negotiate and like how you prefer to do it.
How does it work, like as far as like getting paid for like a big budget movie like that? Is it when you'd kind of broke it down a little bit, like you'll get like a sort of like a here's your production fee, and then here's your and I get that it's what you're negotiating. And if you get back end, here's your back end percentage or whatever based off of that.
Well, as a composer, you will always get some kind of back end because like you'll at least get your writer's share. Right. Sometimes you have to give up publishing, and sometimes you can negotiate to own the publishing. So on your back end for the royalties for a film, when something airs on like television, the royalty is basically split in half, and half of that is writer share and half of that is the publishing side. So that's a royalty that you'll get, and if you own both, you'll basically make twice as much money.
Right.
When something gets licensed, there's usually an initial payment for the master. So like the label that owns the master or whatever, or if you own your own master, you'll get that initial payment. But as far as the royalties that come later, like through ASCAP or BMI, that'll be the publishing and the writer side.
And then but when you get your payment, like, are they negotiating a deal like, all right, Dylan, here's half your money up front, or here's you get it all at the end? Like, how does that work so that you can get to work?
Again, it's all what you negotiate. Typically, I get paid like at the end.
Okay, so you don't even get like a deposit or anything like that. So you got to put in all that work.
Yeah, but some people do like negotiate like
need like
upfront fee or whatever.
Yeah.
But typically, in my experience, the film comes out, and then that's when I'll receive that initial payment. And because like your royalties come, I think it's like 11 months behind. It's a random number, but like my ASCAP payments for like John Wick premieres, I don't see that money until like 11 months after.
Damn, that's so.
I think it's 11 months. It's something like that.
It's
not a year. It's like just a random number, like 9 or 11 months.
Wild.
But then once it gets going, actually, a lot has happened since I was here last. I get sidetracked a lot, so feel free to.
No, you're doing great. No,
we love
this is all. I think this is like really interesting content for people that are interested in this world, or just producers in general. You have so much great business knowledge about the music business. Like, I call you all the time. You know, we call you.
Actually, you guys have called me to like ask questions about like how some of these royalties things work and stuff like that. And I've actually been helping like a lot of my other music friends with like learning how to do that and like register your works and make sure you're getting all your royalties. And I actually have had this idea in my head that I've started working on and started kind of looking into I've become very passionate about this project. I want to start a nonprofit that the intention of this nonprofit is to help musicians learn about and gain like financial literacy, and like part of that would be helping them learn how to register all their works and make sure they're getting all the money that's out there for them to get. But then also just like, I feel like so many of our friends, you know, who are just like music people, don't have a lot of knowledge about like how to build your career in a way that you can like make investments and like plan for the future. And so like a lot of our friends are music people that are just living gig to gig and stuff like that, and nobody teaches us this stuff. That, you know, like
really difficult to understand.
They do it on purpose, though. They try to keep it a mystery. You
yeah,
know,
I feel like today there's more ways for like people and companies and things to like make money off of musicians than there are ways for musicians to actually make money.
Yeah,
and like nobody's teaching. No one's just sharing this knowledge with musicians. There's like somebody's trying to sell a course, or you got to get like a manager and a business manager and all these people that
Just
want
do
their
it
little
for
piece
you,
of the
yeah.
pie.
yeah.
And I guess that's okay for some people who just like don't want to deal with it. But you're just getting a lot of, it's already hard enough to carve your path, and then you've got all these like people taking their piece out. So like, I don't want to make any money from this. I don't want to, I'm not selling a course. I just want to make this nonprofit thing exist where we just get this information out to musicians, because I really believe it will be a net positive for the world if just more people can live and create and just have a sustainable income to continue creating things and sharing them with the world. So that's something that I
really
am
cool.
working on. It's just a little difficult because it's a lot to, like running a nonprofit is a whole other thing to figure out, and I'm pretty busy. But I had a meeting with some top people at ASCAP recently, as I'm an ASCAP member, and we were meeting about other things, but this topic came up, and one of the head people, I'm not going to say any names because it's not solidified and I don't want to speak for them or whatever, but like some top people at ASCAP have expressed interest in like partnering with me on this, and they're like very connected. So I think like it could be a thing that we, you know, get off the ground.
It's a
really
very,
cool.
very, very difficult thing to understand. It's not an easy thing to understand how that, and like, I'll give you a perfect example, right? We call you for advice. I still need to like actually like, I'll ask you after the podcast, but like I literally like need to have like actual like, Dylan, can you like help me for a couple hours type deal, right? Like,
I literally did that with my friend recently. Like
Yeah.
she came over, she's a songwriter. She came over and we just like sat down and like registered a bunch of stuff together. And like, and
It's
a
good
lot of people
practice
like,
for your nonprofit, you know?
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Go ahead.
But
sorry.
there's like a lot of people know about like ASCAP or BMI, or they know about getting their stuff from Spotify through like however they're distributing their music. But like a lot of people don't do MLC or Sound Exchange, and there's like a lot of different ones
Or how to do it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Is I was going to say this is like
Another one is a lot of people don't know that you like when you play a show, you can register your set list and you get paid for that.
for your songs that you play or other people's, or that you just
Both.
you
Like if
perform-
you played other people's songs, they'll
performance
get paid.
mechanical or whatever.
But how many like you know, songs that you did production on or whatever that DJs are playing out all the time.
Right.
Like if they were registering their set list, they would get paid for their tracks that are in there, and you would get paid for any tracks that you've written.
Right.
At any public performance.
And, like,
there's
nobody does
it's
that.
not
know.
costing them anything. The venues are already paying
Right.
to
They have to pay
ASCAP,
that
and
licensing
they have
fee.
to pay it anyway. The money's just there.
Yeah.
So if you're out DJing and you're not registering, especially if you play, like I went and did a tour recently, which it's funny. Last time I was on here, I was like, oh, I
And
don't
never
want to
doing
tour
that
anymore.
again. Yeah. And
Alan
got you to do
talked
it.
me into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're like, my sets are almost all my own music,
Yeah.
and you get paid to go do the show, but there's like good money to be made that's just sitting there if you register your set list. So there's a little nugget for
There you go.
I
everybody.
love that.
That is a great nugget.
through you can do it through ASCAP
I was gonna say just real quick to
or
piggyback off
BMI
this.
or whichever one you are.
I'm still learning this, and Parker and I have been doing this now for almost 10 years professionally, music, right? And I just learned that I thought that if I sign a contract with somebody and I sign up to own part of my masters in publishing, that money, that they will register the song under my name. They don't do that.
No.
It's on me to register it. And
Yeah.
I just found this out like a year ago.
Well,
and
they-
I was just, that doesn't mean that the money's gone, but I'm just like,
Yeah, the good news is like the money's
know
still
that.
collected. So like, I didn't know all this stuff either. I learned it maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But like, when I first did it, I had like, I got like, my first check was nowhere near the checks I get now that I've done all these movies.
Yeah.
But even then, like when I finally did it, I got like a check for like over 10 grand. It was just
There was just money just
$10,000
collecting?
that was just sitting there for me, and I just like hadn't done this stuff, so I didn't
They
know.
were getting played in China or like somewhere across the world.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And it had collected over like years,
Oh, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
The BROSTEP world has fallen into chaos. There is only one redeemer. Excellent sound. The best BROSTEP pack in the industry. Hard-hitting drums. Abusive basses. 50 bonus serum presets. Are you sold yet? Grab your parents' credit cards and buy 5,000 copies of BROSTEP Volume 1. What are you doing, Step Bro Step? Cancel your Splice subscription. Buy BROSTEP Volume 1 today.
Dude, I have a crazy like burning question, and we're like kind of steering towards it. But just for all of the producers watching right now, like, do you have some advice for people that would like to do what you do, and not necessarily like a composer, but more so of like a producer, a branded artist that also composes for movies? I know that's kind of a complex question, but like, is there any advice for people that would rather do that than like go and tour the world? You know, because you could do that from home. You could do that from your own studio.
Yeah, I do think building a brand of some type, even if it's not as a touring artist. I mean, I did do the touring artist thing, and that's one way to build a brand. But just having, you don't have to have a brand. There's plenty of like composers that are just like the composer guy, but it's such an asset.
For sure.
You can command more for what you do when it's known that you do it. And I actually, this came up as a topic like when I was meeting with the people that I met with at ASCAP, and they were just mentioning like how that's an asset.
Yeah.
So I think always working on building that in whatever avenue that you figure out works for you. Like you guys doing this podcast, you're building your brand right now.
Yeah.
And there's many different ways to do that, especially today with the internet and social media and all that. But I think that's a big asset. And then also with things that you're putting out even before you get the opportunity to compose for a movie or a game, if you are showing through the things that you're putting out a quality that would move it in that direction. Like, for example, last time I was here, I told the story of like how I met Tyler Bates and like how we became friends and all that. But I was working on my own project. I didn't have like an angle where I was like trying to get into film and like I'll get Tyler to get me in there.
You were just,
It was like I legitimately loved his music and loved what he did, and I was trying to integrate like string arrangements and cinematic elements into what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so like I learned through working with him, and I was already releasing music that was just like, this EP came out on Mousetrap, and it was like, but I was integrating full string sections and like cinematic elements to what I was doing. So like when the opportunity to work on a film came up, I was a natural choice because like he's already doing things that like are adjacent to this.
Yeah.
So I think moving your sound in the direction that you want to go in is going to just help it click for other people. If someone is working on a game and they're like, we need this kind of music, and you already have something that feels that vibe, it's going to open those doors for you.
Yeah. Who are some other like composer producers that have their own brands that also do movies? Like,
I think we talked about Junkie XL on the last podcast.
Junkie
I think
XL.
he's one of the guys that really crossed over.
Trent Reznor.
Trent Reznor, of course.
Reznor for sure.
Dude, did you see the trailer for Tron?
No,
Yes.
is he doing? Oh,
He's
you
Nine
been
Inch
so
Nails
good
is
for that too, though.
Nine
bro.
Inch Nails is doing the new Tron.
That's
Yeah.
sick.
It's
Nine Inch
insane.
Nails or Trent
It's
Reznor?
as Nine Inch Nails.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Is it Disney again too?
It is. But
It looks brutal.
Bro, the Gone
it
Girl.
looks very dark. It's like,
so good.
yeah, he's awesome.
I was gonna ask you, like, are there any composer, like, because I've been noticing too, like a little bit more, like, kind of like what you're saying, not necessarily electronic, but just more music based instead of just like your classic string composers. Are there any composers out there right now, or movies that you've seen recently that have just been like blowing you away as far as like score or music integration? Because I can think of one that I want to ask you about, but I want to see what your answer is first.
There definitely are a bunch of them. Arcane is super sick. Have you watched Arcane on Netflix? Mm-mm. It's like an animated thing. It's done by Riot Games, but music is a big part of it. Shout out Alex Seaver from Mako. He's done a lot of the music for Arcane, and he's sick. I actually met him. He's working out of my old studio. So I used to be in Crystal Method's B room. He's in that room now. But I met him years ago. Someone from Interscope introduced us, and we did a couple sessions together. And this was, I think we were both like a lot more green. Like I hadn't even done John Wick at that point, I don't think. And I definitely hadn't. So I was met him when we were both more green, but we both like have grown in our own avenues. But he's sick, dude. He's doing really cool stuff. And the way they kind of blend between score into songs in Arcane, it's just really well done. I actually think, like, before I got into doing music, I used to draw all the time. I wanted to be like an animator or comic book artist or whatever. So I just like animation as an art form, and that show I think I will go on record saying that I think that show is like one of the greatest works of art in human history.
Dylan's nodding his head. He's like, is it like anime, or is it?
It's like, it's computer animated, but it looks like a painting. Like it's honestly the sickest animation I've ever seen.
It's really dope. I watched like the first 2 episodes. It's like cell shaded, like almost, where it looks like flat, but
like
3D.
Like the Spider-Man, like how they made him look like
kind of
comics.
kind of like that. Yeah,
but even more like HD almost. Like it's
interesting.
Very, yeah,
I gotta check it out.
The last Across the Spider-Verse, I think.
Yeah.
That score was super sick.
You like that one?
I like that one a lot. I forget the guy's name. I have it saved on my Spotify. But that score I left really inspired just because they fused so many different things, and like I just felt like it was really well done, very creative. It wasn't just your typical Hollywood score. A lot of the Marvel movies, no disrespect to anybody out there, like but there's just like a certain thing that most of those hero movies do, and it's just a little formulaic. Again, no disrespect to anybody, but like I just felt like it was very creative and a creative take on that hero thing. Did you see Everywhere
All at Once?
Yeah. Do you remember there's like a scene where there's like it's like cutting through a bunch of different universes, and it's like a bunch of different pieces of music, but it's all one
that's
melody.
Right. Yeah.
That was
right.
sick. I need to
Yeah.
rewatch that. I remember being in the theater like, how the fuck did they do that? That's so
Yeah.
sick.
That
That
was
part
dope.
was really cool. I need to rewatch
I like
that.
seeing that type of stuff. Like I could see like I don't know if it's just because like I feel like and that's why I'm stoked to have you on. But like just the world of like music and movies has been like so stagnant for such a long time.
A thought that just came to mind is like these movies that we all just mentioned. I think John Wick is an example. All of these. Music was a big part of these films.
Yeah.
And these are all original IPs that broke through, which is rare these days. You know,
Oh,
we
yeah.
keep seeing IPs reused because it's safer, but maybe there's a correlation to these movies that are original IPs that are able to break through. They made music a big part of
You're
it, and
absolutely
they
right.
help create an identity for those films.
Well, I feel like this is kind of more traditional because it's Hans Zimmer, but like Interstellar has the classic sort of, and now we hear it everywhere, like that classic theme. And then another Chris Nolan movie recently that came out was Oppenheimer, and people are like, oh, like some people didn't really like the movie, but like to me, the sound and the music, specifically the sound quality of how good the sounds, like when he's splitting the atom, and it's just like you hear all these crazy sounds, and the music is so beautiful, and it made the movie so much better. Like if it didn't have those elements, like the movie probably would have been boring as fuck to me.
Yeah, well, that's a cool part about what I get to do.
Yeah.
Is like I see the movie through all these different iterations. So like when I first get it, like all the sound effects pass hasn't done. There's like temp in there. There's like stuff that the editorial team will put in just to start
just
getting
like
the feel and the
placeholder.
vibe. Yeah, exactly, placeholder. And I'll see scenes with no music, or I'll see scenes with just like some temp music that's not it yet. And you get to really see it evolve and see how much these things affect the final outcome of the movie. Not just musically, although that's a huge part of it, but sound effects, the color grading. Color grading is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Of like, because on the first John Wick, I saw the film like completely before any color grading was done.
Raw,
And then
whatever.
and then you see like the final version. Shout out to Jill who does
Jill.
the color grading.
Let's go,
Jill,
Jill.
what up?
Color Jill.
Are there like gray
I don't-
blobs everywhere, like just going like weird
Great
things?
blobs.
Yeah, like
It's just
before,
gray
like,
overall.
Pre-special
Oh,
effects.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about you see like a
Pre-special
tennis
effects.
ball, like a green tennis
Yeah,
ball.
you
or
see
something?
like the green screen,
Oh,
like
yeah.
bats and
I
shit.
see all the early stuff,
so
like
so
green
dope.
screen or the ropes and pulleys and stuff that are still
Yeah.
in there that they haven't painted out.
That's so awesome.
Or there'll be a camera in a shot, like that scene in John Wick 2 where there's like a mirror room
Oh,
that he's
yeah.
in. They had to paint out all the cameras because there's
Oh, yeah.
mirrors everywhere.
Oh my
That must have been
gosh,
crazy pain in the
frame
ass.
I
by
see all
frame.
that early stuff. Yeah.
That's so insane, man.
I wanted to ask you too, like, I don't know if I brought this up last time. I've definitely talked to you about this, but one of my biggest pet peeves about movies and films, and I'm hoping that you can maybe help answer this, is when you're watching a movie at home, streaming or on DVD.
Oh God.
The fucking
I already know.
sound and the volume is insanely loud or insanely quiet when dialogue comes in. And in my mind, I'm like, this is a multi-million-dollar movie, and you're telling me that these guys don't have enough sense to fucking adjust the volume for at-home listeners? Like, how does this make sense? Why is that, bro? Tell me. Help me understand. Is it lazy, or they're just like, whatever, we'll just put this out, and we don't have time to do an at-home mix? Like, what is it? Doesn't seem like
The
it's that hard.
at-home mix is a stereo mix, by the way.
So it is an
A
at-home mix.
normal stereo mix.
So they are mixing for at home, but
No,
they're
they're
just
not.
they're
I'm
just
saying-
fucking don't know how to adjust volume.
There's surround mix. There's the surround mix,
Yes.
and then they have to do a separate stereo mix. You can't just like combine it to left and right because there's all these phase issues. So that's the problem.
That's why the
I don't
volume is
know,
so aggressive?
I don't know why that happens.
That bothers you too, though?
We got to bring Mark Stockinger on the pod. We'll get him to walk us through it.
Does that bother you too? Am I like, is that? It drives me nuts because I'm like,
Yeah,
I
it's
can't.
terrible.
I'm like, wait, I'm literally, I'm the fucking compressor the entire time of the fucking movie with my
I
volume
just want to
control.
put like an L2
In my
on the
mind,
mouse.
Automating.
In my mind, they just had the wrong person do the mix because
Right.
it's bad. It's
Like, how is that possible?
Yeah,
At least from
it
like
happens
a
all the
producer
time.
sense.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know. I would like to ask Mark about that. Like, is that like
Yeah.
because of some formatting thing, or is that just
Yeah.
literally someone is not good at mixing, or they're just I don't know.
Because it's like, it makes sense in a theater. It's quiet, it's treated. We're gonna hear the quiet parts.
Yeah.
And it's loud, it's dynamic. At home, it's like we have a remote control, and we're like, what did they just? That's why I watch everything with subtitles now,
Yeah.
literally, because I can't. it
Well, they
drives me
actually
worst.
have like settings on some TVs. Like if you have a
Oh,
nice
they have like
TV
a built-in
that'll
like
have
compressor
like,
or some sort. Is
Yeah,
it a limiter that would do it, or
Yeah.
compressor?
I don't. It's like does some kind of dynamics like control to like bring up the quiet parts and reduce the loud parts.
Thank you guys for validating my feelings.
Of course, dude.
Fucking hate
Everyone
this,
has
bro.
experienced that. And
Okay.
it's like what the.
I'm just like, am I like being like nitpicky here, or
Yeah,
like
I can't think of an example right now, but some movies are just like really atrocious where it's like
it's so bad at home? It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up. So I went
my
to
dog hates it, just like runs out of the room because it gets
What
loud
the fuck
all the
was
time.
that? Yeah.
I was gonna say I went to the Runway Film Festival, which is like Runway AI. That's like
Oh,
the
right,
generator
right.
of AI. And every film that was made, it was made entirely from AI. And there was about like 15 films, and you could totally tell which ones had a real composer to the
Oh, they
short
didn't
film.
do music. It was just the video aspect. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't
the video
all entirely AI.
But they were short films
Got it.
created by AI, and people like put sound effects in it, and like they compose, and like you could just tell which ones were just like on contact, where they were just like playing a chord and then they're out, or like playing like a little melody, you know. And then there was full on short films that were like beautifully orchestrated, which some of our friends were in it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but Roki, they had a film in there, and I just watched it, and you know their music is insane, and like I could tell in the audience they were just so zoomed in on that one, and then there was another one, and it was because the music was so powerful, like going along with the AI video.
Oh yeah, it's a huge.
It's like
part
night
of-
and day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the script AI too?
I don't know if the writing was, but everything that you visually see was created by AI.
If you're an EDM producer and you need some serious sounds, make sure you guys go to XLNTSound.com. They have everything you need, from Serum presets, project files, remakes, and even free downloads for you guys. And check out all these different testimonials that all these heavy-hitting EDM producers are saying about XLNTSound.com.
And on top of that, use code TheExcellentShow at checkout to save 10% off your next purchase.
So for you, in your world, obviously, like, there's obviously been a lot of discussion about AI and the writer's strike.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This
Go
is a
ahead.
great question.
Go
Let me
ahead.
hit
Go,
it. Okay.
go.
So in your world, obviously there's been a lot of controversy over AI and like the writer's strike. And for you, for somebody who does compose for film, TV, and video games, what is your feelings about AI possibly taking your job in the future? Or like, has that even been discussed to you at all about them using
of course.
a little bit of it?
Everyone's discussing this stuff. I don't know how to feel yet. I think we're figuring it out. I don't think that everything AI is necessarily evil, like some people think. Or
Yeah.
I'm definitely not afraid of like. I definitely think some composing jobs they're gone. It's done. Like a lot of the
Specifics.
smaller
Yeah.
things, reality TV,
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff
Yeah,
is
that's
probably
gone.
going to get replaced.
That was trash
soon.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend that does a lot of those
Yeah.
things, and he's built a good career off of it, and made those things air all the time, so he's made good royalties. I have concern for people in those roles, or people that were doing music that's like kind of in those libraries for like social media stuff and
Yeah.
content. Like all of that stuff will probably get replaced soon. As far as like actual artists who are out there doing music, I don't think that's going to go away. We were kind of talking about this before the
Yeah.
podcast. Like, I think people like invest just as much into the character of the artist that they like, and like the whole
Right.
brand, it's not just, obviously the music has to be good, and that's what like get them to become a fan in the first place, but like people buy into the person,
Right.
the artist that they love just as much. And like I don't personally see AI replacing that anytime soon. It might be something that coexists with it, but people will still like the artists that they like, and people will continue to find new artists that they like. And there may be a world where those artists are just using AI as a tool that aids in their process. I do think we need transparency on like what they're training on.
For sure.
Because right now there's none. Like Suno, there's no transparency about
You can't
what
see
they've
where
trained it
you're
on,
from,
and obviously they've trained it on a large chunk of music that's owned by somebody.
Yeah.
And there's no, and I have a theory about this. Have you played with Suno? Have you guys like checked it out? Oh,
definitely.
of course.
Very familiar with it.
Yeah, I think it's important that all of us are
we
playing
need-
with these things.
yeah.
I originally had like blinders on and like kind of just like, oh, I don't want to think about that. I think that's a mistake. You should be aware of like
For sure.
what it can do and what it's going to be able to do and all of that stuff. But you know, like when you use Suno, you can download like a wave of the thing that you've created. But when you listen to it, it sounds like not a full resolution file.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they trained it on like low res files or like a streaming quality.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
a good
so like
point.
The
it's
alias.
the
They didn't
reason
even download the music. They just taken it from streams. Is what you're saying?
or like not a full resolution, like they got MP3s or something like that. Because it all kind of has that low res quality to it. It sounds like an MP3 even if you
Yeah.
get
Yes.
Now that may be a byproduct of just like what it's doing, but I have a suspicion that it's just been trained on lower res files, because
Yeah.
how do you for them to obtain that, they're not acquiring the masters to all this stuff,
It's
right?
also gotten really better now. Like you can download stems.
yeah.
So the stems, but the stems still have that like
No, it has
alias,
that green-
like
yeah,
lo-fi like sound on it.
Yeah,
That's really
I think they're
interesting.
doing some type of stem separation, which causes the aliasing to be like even worse. But even the full file, when you listen to it, it doesn't sound like a full resolution like wave would.
There's a big court case. Their Udio is getting sued in Suno.
Yeah.
It's like,
Really?
it just started up. Like there was one early.
We're gonna have to go
but-
through a period of time where all this stuff happens.
It's
and
like the
we'll-
internet just starting over. You know what I mean? It's everyone's afraid to order anything online on the internet. I think at the end of the day, somebody still has to prompt it, and you're not going to get some fucking music studio bigwig sitting there prompting, trying to get a really good song out
Oh,
of
you'd be
Suno.
surprised though.
I don't think
The
that they
prompt
have
masters.
No,
dude.
I'm saying there's going to be
Maybe.
jobs like that, but you still need somebody that has a musical idea or sense to be able to take that and either recreate it or like final version wise, we're definitely not there yet. But you still like it's just to me, it's just going to be like a tool. But I do think you're right. I don't think musicians should have to pay. Like, I think if anything, the AI companies that are making all this money and sourcing it, there needs to be transparency from what it's sourcing. And then that's a way for ASCAP, BMI, and other places for musicians to get paid, just like the same way it would be for artists. So if an artist puts a piece of art online and, you know, whatever it is, what's the whatever ChatGPT takes that piece of art and uses it for an influence to create something for somebody, that artist should essentially be paid for that, for having at least part of the reference. It's like using one of my samples. It should be treated as the same way, I think.
Yeah. But the tech bros are never going to do this unless they're forced to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
100%.
we need to go through this whole process. There's going to
They're
be
just- yeah.
lawsuits. I had an in-depth conversation with the people that I met with at ASCAP about all of this.
Oh, cool.
And they actually have a deeper understanding of like how it actually works and like how much music it's pulling from and all of that stuff. But yeah, we're going to have to just go through this period and see how it shakes out but I don't think the tech bros are just gonna, out of the goodness of their heart, like
No.
start paying musicians.
Yeah,
Like,
no way.
we need it to be opt-in, so you need to have a choice on whether it's trained on your music or not.
That's a good idea.
It needs to be opt-in, and there needs to be some form of royalty share.
Yeah.
Even if it's, like even your stuff being on Spotify, you get like a fraction
It's
of a
so
penny.
bad.
I mean, I get, pretty good money off my streaming, and like Alan, One True God, like he lives off of his streaming money.
Yeah.
But he's like a successful artist,
Yeah. But he should be getting paid more.
It should be.
It's the
it should be
lowest
more
paying
balanced.
out of any stream. I think out of any most of the bigger streaming, it's the lowest paying. It's ridiculous.
It should be better balanced. But I'm saying
Yeah.
even if these AI companies were doing something comparable, like if your
I see what you're
music is
saying.
referenced and you get a fraction of a penny or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like used a lot, it can add up. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Sure.
the
okay.
royalty game, and you get all these different royalties adding up in different areas, and I
It's
bought a house
also-
in LA off of my royalties,
Right.
so
It's also
woo.
being trained on like an entire library of music. It's not
Yeah.
even just one song. It's like not even, I was going to say soul, but it's like it's the entirety of the library. And like there's a number on that when
Like how many
a
actual
label
songs?
is going to buy your library. Like that's a whole investment, and there's an equation that they come up with to put a number on that. So like the AI thing, it's got to be higher than a stream for sure. I think personally, but I think the big thing is it's just the bar for entering music production is going to be so low now. Like anybody can make music. You don't have to learn Ableton. You don't have to learn a DAW. You don't have to do anything. You just have to learn how to prompt, and then it's going to be like flooded with music, and it's not going to be good music, but
yeah, I think it's just going to be harder to find good
Yeah.
music, but then good
Yeah.
music is going to
Creme
stand
will rise
out.
to the top, right? That's what they say.
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. We're just going to have to see what happens.
yeah.
It's coming, whether we like it or not. It's coming. So you better fucking figure it out. Like you said, we need to be comfortable with it. You got to understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of feel for like some of the younger people. Like, I don't know. Like, I have a lot of torn emotions about this because
Yeah.
there is one side of it that is really cool. I mean, basically, like the idea to me, what generative AI is doing is like taking all the creative consciousness of all humanity and giving anyone access to that, which is kind of cool. Like
exciting.
if you just think about it in that way. But then it's also taking like everyone's intellectual property and just helping some billionaires become more billionaires.
Right.
Like
Monetizing
without
Yeah.
the people who actually created this stuff, which is just the constant battle of being a creative.
it. Musicians getting fucked over again.
Yeah.
So before
And
oh
painters, artists.
Yeah.
all-
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
just us. Yeah.
anyone that does anything creative is just like,
It's already
tech
hard enough
bros
as it is.
just ripping them off.
So before I forget, the whole reason I brought up that like Runway Film Festival was one of the top guys at Lionsgate was speaking there and talking about how they use AI in movies now. And
Oh,
people
wow.
are all hiding it.
Oh,
Like companies
sure.
are
Oh,
hiding
yeah.
it and they're using it. And he was like, dude, we're proud to say that we use AI. And the show that they did it on was House of David. Do you know House of David?
I haven't seen
It's
that.
on. It's like David and Goliath TV show. I haven't seen it,
I haven't
but
seen it.
they used mostly AI for the special effects. And
Oh, man.
I
those
was-
guys.
Have you watched The Studio yet on Apple TV?
no,
The new
but I
Seth
really
Rogen-
want to.
Bro, watch that show. Is hilarious. And if you have worked in the film industry, it's
Yeah.
even funnier. Just like some of the stuff that you have to do. It's kind of, I don't know, watching it was kind of therapeutic to me because I'm just like, oh, I'm not the only one that
Oh,
has to
nice.
deal with this. But it's hilarious. And there's actually an episode where like there's some stuff about AI or whatever. But everybody should watch that show. It's hilarious.
I
There
love
was,
that.
There was controversy over the Adrian Brody who won Best Actor for the Brutalist movie, and apparently he used AI for his, or they, not he, but the film studio used AI to help his accent in the film.
That's awesome.
But it's like, if he's like, this is, I believe this is fact. So this is what I heard.
Could be a Danny fact.
Could be a Danny fact. So whatever. I'm just gonna put that there. But essentially, they used AI to help improve his acting accent for the film. And the controversy is like, well, you won an Oscar and you're not actually performing. You're actually using a computer to, like, for something that is supposed to be the best actor. It was just kind of like, that's kind of like fucked up.
You do get taken out of a movie though, like when the accent is off.
Imagine,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, no, totally. But imagine winning a Grammy for a.
And you don't have the right accent.
Yeah. Or no, I'm saying winning a Grammy and using AI to create a song that was good, but it just made it that much better. Like, would you feel kind of like that person is like
it
less?
is very common to do like overdubs after a movie to like fix accents and stuff like that.
Oh, really? Okay, so even to fix accents, I know they do overdubs.
Specifically to fix accents, I've seen that done many times in many films. It's like they got a cool shot, a cool take, or whatever, but the accent wasn't quite right. They'll just have the actor come in and do it again, or sometimes they'll, not with like a lead, but like if there's a character that's not a lead, they'll just replace their voice completely. They'll have
like an actor.
They'll have like a voice actor come in and just overdub.
Like if they only have like a couple lines type of thing, it's like they didn't sound good. Like, why are we going to pay this person to come in? Let's pay instead of paying their day rate, they
just get somebody that has that accent and they'll just do it.
Interesting. I never noticed that before. He started pointing me on to me. He's like, dude, you don't even know. He's like, dude, because he notices it too, and I'm sure you do. It's all the different
some bad voiceovers.
Like voiceovers.
Yeah.
It's usually with kids.
And now I'm starting to recognize it. Like I'm like, oh wait, that was a voiceover, and like now they pointed out. I'm like, oh, I start noticing.
Yeah,
a lot.
I mean it's very common. A lot of times, it's just the audio that they got on set wasn't.
That's a hard
as
thing
good
to
as
do.
it needed to be, and to
make it sound seamless would be very difficult, or like in the environment that it was first recorded in with everything else.
Have you ever tried to do it like for fun, like on screen, like where you watch the movie and you say exactly what they're saying at the same time?
No, but I would love to try to do an
It's a lot of
overdub,
fun.
just like to see if I could make somebody's voice sound like it's supposed to be in the same room. Like,
oh no, that's
us talking
hell.
right now. I would just like to challenge myself. It's like
so
kind of like
hard.
remaking.
there's probably AI for that now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
If not, there should be.
One thing that you had talked about last time, which I think is really cool and really special for you, is that the John Wick universe, not only are people becoming a fan of, the universe itself, but they've become a fan of your music too. It's like a big part of the movie, like we were talking about. So one thing I thought of is like when you're actually making these songs and they don't have your typical sort of like start-stop points, and then you're taking those songs and you upload them to stream. Are you creating edits of those because they don't have video so that they're a little bit more listenable for people?
Yeah.
You probably notice it more, I would assume.
Yeah, I do like the soundtrack version. This is pretty common with all soundtracks. It's not necessarily the exact version that's in the movie. Mm-hmm. You make like a more listenable version or just like make some edits to make it flow better or just whatever. It's just like, you try to retain what is the identity of the song, but just, or like some scenes are just shorter. Like they're in the first John Wick. I just on the soundtrack just released the version that is in the movie of a track I did called LED Spirals. Is like the most popular one from John Wick 1.
The Wubs. But
the original, I didn't know that. Like I thought you just put the version. Yeah, it's the first movie I worked on, so I was like, well, here you go. So it's only 1 minute long. It's just as long as the scene in the movie. But when I tell you, I got messages every day for like over a year of people asking for a full version of that song. So like,
wow.
Finally, I was like, okay, I'll just make one. So I made like a full version. We released it like a year after that movie came out, just as a single. Mm-hmm. And like now that one song single that came out like a year after the soundtrack has more streams than the entire soundtrack like combined.
Oh my god!
People just
that's awesome.
That's something else that I tell people all the time about how like you can't predict like what song is gonna just like pop, like because like it's a cool track. Like I like it. I
Yeah.
get what people like about it is like the rhythms of it, but it's really simple. There's 2 notes in that whole song.
Yeah, I know.
Literally,
It's very
and they're right
simple.
next to each other.
Yeah.
The sound design is really cool, though. You have this really cool sort
It's
of
the sound
yeah.
design and the rhythms of
Yeah.
it, but it's like of the music I've made, it's probably one of the simplest songs ever.
And you're like, fuck.
But people just like loved. I think it's also like how it works in the film.
Nostalgic
Like,
to it a little bit.
yeah, it's like a really cool shot of John Wick like stepping out into the club, and there's
Right.
like the LED wall behind him. It's a cool visual, and the music's like going to it. So I think a big part of its success is just what they associate it with, and then also I think simplicity just allows people to like process the music easier.
Yeah, more people.
A
to
lot of the
consume it,
best
for
music
sure.
is very simple, and a
Yeah.
lot of the especially in film music, if stuff's too busy or too all over the place, it really can pull you out of the film.
Yeah.
A lot of the scores that stand out the most to us or that are the most memorable are very simple. Like if you think of Jaws, everybody knows Jaws
Oh,
instantly.
Yeah. Oh
Yep.
yeah.
That's literally 2 notes right
Half
next
step.
to each other.
I can
Half
play it
step
right
right
now
there.
on that piano.
Or
Oh,
like
man.
Darth Vader's theme.
Yep.
You know, very simple, but extremely effective.
Yep. Great point. Cool. Thank you for answering that. I thought that was
That was a
something-
great question,
Yeah,
dude.
thanks.
I was very surprised. I didn't know where it was going.
Yeah.
You know?
I just I had to go there because I was like, man, I bet you he has to do edits for this. But
Yeah.
we're gonna talk more about some more music. You're gonna go through and actually show us one of the scenes from Ballerina. We're gonna react to it and see. You're gonna talk about some music. So stay tuned for that next episode, guys. Thank you, La Castlevania, bro. Thank you so much for joining us again. We love you, bro.
Do you have any final words
Yeah.
for the people, for the producers?
What can they expect, or where can they find your music to listen to?
Oh yeah, you know, I'm on all the music services, so definitely you know, just check out La Castlevania on wherever you listen to music. It's kind of funny, like coming on again, I was like, oh, we're gonna have stuff to talk about, like you know,
Yeah.
we already talked about, but I've got like 100 other things that we
I
like
know.
lightly touched on and didn't even get to. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll do it again in the
Of
future.
course we will.
Yeah, dude.
But always a pleasure to be here, guys. It's cool. Also, we've become like friends since.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No, it's always fun hanging out, dude. Fight nights, just going out, like, you know. It's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
it's always great hanging.
It's nice to have you as like a friend or like a mentor to us that we can like. You're one of those people that we're like, oh, fuck, let's call Dylan, bro. Like, kind of feel bad sometimes because we're like,
We got our first placement,
yeah,
Dylan.
like, Dylan,
we got our
how do we
first
do
movie.
this? Like, yeah. So,
But
we
yeah,
really
we didn't even
appreciate
talk
that.
about the premiere. I just went to
Fuck!
Vegas
I
for
know.
a John Wick thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't even get into.
Well, we could talk about it
yeah.
in the next segment too.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that
yeah.
in the next one. Perfect.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Awesome.
Sweet. Like the video, subscribe, comment. We're out. Let's jump in the next video, bro.
Ring the
Yeah,
bell.
dude.
That's right.
Ring the bell.